Welcome back to the UNC Charlotte Cato College of Education Clinical Educator Professional Development Series. This episode is all about edTPA. So, with that said, have you ever heard of edTPA before? Well, that's a bit dramatic. Okay, let's try that again. So, have you ever heard of edTPA before? So those were some pretty extreme reactions to edTPA, and that's why we made this video, to help you, the clinical educator, understand how you can support your candidate and try and alleviate some of that stress throughout this process. So the best place to start is by jumping in with a quick explanation of what edTPA is and why we use it. edTPA is a teacher performance assessment. It is a 3 or 4 task project, 3 for most programs and 4 for elementary ed majors. It is rubric scored, 15 for most and 18 for those LED students. The project is evidence-based, with commentaries to justify planning or reflect upon performance. And the project was developed by Scale, with input by the same people who helped develop the National Board certification process. Scale, by the way, stands for the Stanford Center for Assessment, Learning, and Equity, and they worked with many professional organizations across the country to perfect this performance assessment project. Take a look at this national map. There are currently 41 states participating in edTPA at various levels. Some use it for teacher prep programs, and others are actually using it for state teaching licensure policies. You can see North Carolina on the map as a participating state, but in fall 2019, we will be a state that requires edTPA for licensure. Okay, now that we've established the high level of participation nationally, the credibility of the product, and the purpose, let's take a look at what the candidates are going to do, and most importantly, where you as a clinical educator fit in. Alright, let's break this edTPA project down by task. Task 1 is lesson planning for all candidates, and those candidates must plan a 3 to 5 day learning segment. Task 2 for everyone will be instruction evidence by way of 1 to 2 video clips of the candidate teaching from those previously mentioned 3 to 5 lesson plans that came in Task 1. Task 3, the third task, is also for all candidates, and this will be an assessment of the students being taught. This assessment also comes from those 3 to 5 lessons that were planned in Task 1. The final task listed, Task 4, is an elementary education candidate-only task, and it involves a math lesson. So if you have an elementary education candidate working in your classroom, by all means discuss with them this additional task. Right behind me here you can see a great visual that ties together the entire product. This is the edTPA cycle of effective teaching, and you can see those 3 components or tasks all working together. Okay, before we move on and talk about how you, as the clinical educator, can serve the candidate, let's take a quick look at the plethora of resources we provide for our candidates. Here we are at the edTPA Canvas page. This page has every document and link to help the students navigate the edTPA process, from their first semester in the program all the way to completion. If students are looking for their content-specific or grade-level specific handbooks, or templates, or even the video permission forms, they need look no further than the edTPA Canvas page. We also have resources around video recording help and suggestions for equipment and software. This is the candidate's one-stop shop to complete the edTPA project. Now it's time to talk about what you, the clinical educator, can do to help. But actually, it's probably more effective to talk about what you can't do. I'm going to start here because this is actually a pretty short list. You can't help the candidates write or edit their commentaries. You can't tell them what videos to use. You can't do the assessment feedback to their students. And you can't help upload their student work. Just in case you missed any of those or need a further explanation, here's the actual list. A downloadable version of this is available just below this video screencast. Now take a look at this list. There's nearly 2 pages of acceptable supports, ranging from supplying grade level or PLC activities to helping actually record the Task 2 video, all the way to helping identify accommodations and modifications for your students. Just like the unacceptable supports I described, these acceptable supports can be found in a document called Guidelines for Supporting Your Candidate. You can find this downloadable version right below this video. Hopefully this has given you a better idea of what is and what isn't acceptable in terms of supporting your candidate on edTPA. If you have more questions, definitely talk to your candidate and their university supervisor as they visit throughout the semester. So as we begin to wrap up this edTPA support for clinical educators video, let's quickly shoot down a few edTPA misconceptions that might be floating around out there. edTPA sometimes gets misconstrued as something extra along with student teaching. It's not. edTPA is all about planning, instructing, assessing, and reflecting, all components of highly effective teaching. edTPA can also sometimes be thought of as a hands-off, leave the candidate alone type of project. But as we've described here, that is certainly not the case. You just need to know the parameters for helping out. It's worth noting again that edTPA is a nationally respected teacher performance evaluation tool that will soon be consequential for our candidates, and CEs are in arguably the position with the most influence on our candidates' success. So before we go, here are some really critical things to know and do with the edTPA process. All programs have some sort of support seminars, either face-to-face or online, with instructors that have expertise in edTPA. As was previously mentioned, a multitude of digital resources are at the student's disposal. As the semester progresses, inquire as to whether or not your student teacher is taking full advantage of these resources. edTPA deadlines, scoring, and other FAQ type information is available or linked from our OSCP homepage. Initial visits will be happening soon, and this is a critical time to discuss the acceptable and unacceptable supports, as well as helping map out the calendar to complete the product in a timely manner. Lastly, and new this semester, we will hold strategically timed bi-monthly webinars so CEs can come and check for updates and ask experts from the college about the product and how to support their candidates. Dates and times will be posted and reminders sent via email. Okay, that does it for the edTPA Clinical Educator Support video. I hope you learned something new and are feeling good about supporting your student teaching candidate this semester. Alright, that's it. And remember, if this was the last video you viewed, there is a survey share questionnaire, an e-signature document, and some honorarium paperwork you need to complete for us to process your honorarium. Thanks again for working with UNC Charlotte, and go Niners.